Welcome to Friday's Economy Watch, where we follow the economic events and trends that affect Aotearoa. I'm David Chaston, and this is the international edition from interest.co.nz. And today we lead with news. The breakdown of free passage in the Strait of Hormuz seems to have others considering the possibilities. Even if it isn't a formal idea, an Indonesian minister has wondered out loud about tolling the Malacca Strait. And there is no indication of progress on reopening the Strait of Hormuz. It is still a deadly no-go zone with no end in sight. Only bad news from the Persian Gulf today. In the US, actual initial jobless claims fell last week by 9,700 from the prior week. But this was less than the 16,000 fall seasonal factors would have expected. There are now 1,863,000 people on these benefits, less than the 1,880,000 a year ago, but more than the 1,780,000 2 years ago. And there was positive news from the US flash PMIs in April. The factory version is expanding faster and is at a 4-year high. Their services sector is expanding again in a modest way after the March contraction. But the April factory survey by the Kansas City Fed reported no improvement from the modest expansion in March. However, the Chicago Fed's National Activity Index was notably lower in its latest update, reporting its biggest drop of the year. And if you're working for the Magnificent Seven, you may struggle to hold your job in the face of some severe downsizing. Meta has announced a 10% or 8,000 job cut and said its 6,000 open positions would be cancelled. And Microsoft is starting to shrink its large workforce by 7%. AI productivity is behind these moves. And Canada said its PPI rose sharply in March, up 7.8% from the same month in 2025, driven by very high metals price increases, were up an eye-watering 23.6% on the same annual basis. In India, their April flash PMIs reported a faster expansion that actually accelerated in the month, both for services and factories. In Taiwan, and given their earlier data on new orders, it will probably be no surprise to know that their industrial production was up 29% from a year ago, the fastest jump on record there. Their retail sales grew too, a turnaround from a flat prior result, but nothing like their factory sector. There were flash PMIs out in Japan yesterday too, and their factory sector is strengthening while their services sector expansion cooled somewhat. This report also noted intensified cost pressures. And South Korea reported its first quarter GDP rise at 3.6% from the equivalent 2025 quarter. This was their fastest growth since the fourth quarter of 2021 and exceeded forecasts of 2.7%. In Europe, their factory sector is doing it tough in April. Eurozone output fell for the first time in 16 months as prices surged higher. In Australia, their S&P Global PMI tracking shows their economy expanding again in April after the surprise March contraction. Their factory PMI is back expanding at a modest pace, while their services sector is back at a steady pace of expansion after the notable March contraction. They noted rising cost pressures, however. And global container freight rates were essentially flat over the past week, with Trans-Pacific rates rising, but China to EU rates falling. They are now little changed from a year ago, up a -3% on that annual basis. But bulk cargo rates rose a sharpest 11% over the past week to be 110% higher than year-ago levels. The US Treasury 10-year yield is now just on 4.33%, up 4 basis points from yesterday at this time. And the price of gold will start today down $54 at $4,682 an ounce. Silver's down $2 at just under $76 an ounce. But American oil prices are up $3 at just on $96.50 a barrel, while the international Brent price is up $4, now at $105.50 a barrel, and back in the range that it was in the second half of March. And the Kiwi dollar is down a sharper 60 basis points from yesterday at 58.5 US cents. Against the Aussie, we're down 40 basis points at 82.1 Australian cents. Against the euro, we're down 30 basis points at 50.1 euro cents. That all means our trade-weighted index starts today down 50 basis points from yesterday at just on 62 and a 2-week low. And the Bitcoin price starts today at $77,590 and down 1.8% from yesterday. Volatility over the past 24 hours has been modest, just under plus or minus 1.5%. You can get more news affecting the economy in New Zealand from interest.co.nz. Kia ora. I'm David Chaston, and we'll do this again on Tuesday because Monday is a public holiday in New Zealand, Anzac Day.